Now, I've given you some strong pros to being a truck driver. I got to give you a few cons. The main one, in my opinion, this profession is dangerous. I mean, we're up and down the road all day with an 80,000-pound vehicle, and we're around and interacting with individuals, four-wheeler drivers, that don't always know how to interact and how to engage with a truck on the interstate. That makes the profession dangerous. Not to mention that if you go to any city in America, you'll see a sign. You'll see a billboard that says something to the effect of, have you been injured in an accident involving a truck? Call us. That's all we do. In other words, everybody is waiting to stick it to the trucker as soon as he makes a mistake, as soon as he makes an error. These things make trucking dangerous, and there's a lot of people that feel no matter how much we're getting paid as truck drivers, it is not worth it. And I can't say that I'm arguing with that point. Second con to being a truck driver, in my opinion, it is not easy to maintain this profession for a long period of time without an exit strategy. There are a lot of people that come into trucking with the desire to just drive. And I don't want to criticize that because, to be honest with you, that does work for some people. But for many people, the circumstances that they have when they get into the trucking profession change after they get into the trucking profession. And the same things that they're willing to do when they start trucking change after their circumstances change. There's people that go back to renew their medical card and can't because they're having health issues, which means they have to make a different decision now. There are individuals that are responsible for loved ones at the house. I have a friend whose husband passed away recently, and they have like 4 children, and she's an OTR truck driver. She's still an OTR truck driver now, 2 years after her spouse passed. She wants to make the transition to local, but for a variety of different reasons, she hasn't been able to do that yet. She was always fine with being OTR with a spouse at home. Now that there's no spouse at home, she has all kinds of incentive to change her situation. The point that I'm making is, while it does work for some people, I would always advocate for day one when you come into the trucking profession to start putting into play your exit plan, your exit strategy. How are you going to pay your bills if and when you can't or choose not to drive the truck anymore? Most of the time when I present that question to people, their response, especially if they're one of those people that quote unquote love driving, they're like, why would I need an exit plan? I'm going to drive forever. And I'm just thinking, yeah, you say that now, but will you say that if your home circumstances change? Third con of being a truck driver, it's not easy to maintain this profession for long periods of time without the proper support at home. You got that from the comments that I read earlier. The last thing you want is to be on the road thinking about what's going on at home, or to be at home knowing and feeling and thinking that you need to be back on the road. That's the opposite of concentration. You need your loved ones on the same page with you. If it's not, it's going to make it difficult for you. There's a saying that goes like this: people are either wind in your sails or they can be an anchor in your tail. And a supportive spouse or supportive home will feel like wind in your sails. An unsupportive home situation will feel like an anchor in your tail. So you got to work that out if you expect to be happy in trucking for long periods of time. Fourth con to the trucking profession, it is not easy to maintain a trucking career for long periods of time without the proper setup. There's a lot of variety in trucking. There are a lot of ways that you can do trucking, and each one of those ways will give you a different experience based on what you want to do, what you enjoy doing, how you like to run, how much home time you want, where you want to go in the country. Based on all of that stuff, if you have a way that you like or prefer to do things, and you're with a company, or you're set up in a way where you're running opposite to that, you're not going to be happy in trucking. There was one individual that told me when I first got in trucking, when I wasn't really enjoying being in the profession, he said, what do you have to complain about in trucking? There's literally something for everyone in trucking. And at the time, based on my own perspective, I disagreed with him. I'm like, nothing is for everybody. But in hindsight right now, after 7 years of driving and seeing and hearing about all of the different ways and experiences you can have out here, I absolutely believe that trucking is the profession that is the closest to having enough variety for everybody. The bad thing about that is you could easily get stuck on something that is the opposite to how you enjoy running. But if that happens, just know that there's a lot more variety out here. Not all truck drivers are having the same experience. The fifth con to being a truck driver, there's a huge learning curve. Many people come into the profession expecting it to be a lot simpler than it actually is. I'm one of those people. And a lot of people are overwhelmed by everything you have to learn once you come in trucking. You get your first taste of that with the test that you have to study for to pass your pre-trip. That's a lot of stuff to learn. Anybody going through the process knows that, but there's a lot of stuff that you're going to have to learn even after that juncture in trucking. So there's a huge learning curve that you're probably going to need to make it through before you begin to enjoy your trucking career. And the sixth con of the trucking profession, this could go either way, but the profession is changing so much. The industry is changing so rapidly. There's so many things that are being addressed right now that need to be addressed. Government and politicians feel like certain things need to be addressed in the transportation sector. Drivers feel like certain things need to be addressed. So as far as the future of trucking, because people have asked me that before, I really can't say. What I can say is there are a lot of changes that are happening in trucking. Hours of service is something that is always changing and that drivers want to be changed more to favor them. Truck parking is a huge issue that needs to be addressed, especially when you factor in the driver shortage. That's another issue. I mean, the numbers say that right now we need 80,000 more trucks on the road. Don't know how the heck they're going to address truck parking with 80,000 more trucks on the road. But this is something that needs to be dealt with because they're addressing driver shortages. They got to figure out training. There's changes happening to training. Drivers complain about load transparency or broker transparency. The rising cost of fuel, electric trucks is something that's going to happen. Driverless trucks. These are both things that there's a lot of money being put into. And so because of that, I would say that they are inevitable. Driverless trucks, autonomous trucks, that's going to happen. It's going to be a matter of time, I would say, as far as autonomous trucks. I don't really see cars driving around right now without a driver. I don't see airplanes right now flying around without a pilot. So while I do believe that electric trucks and driverless trucks are coming, I don't really see it as something that's going to affect major segments of the transportation industry in the next 10, 15, 20 years. You should expect changes to continue in the trucking profession because the world is changing. But I wouldn't say that that should stop you from coming in the profession. So what's the huge takeaway? I gotta be honest, there isn't one. I don't like to give direction or instruction. I just like to give information. And that's what I try to do in this video, just share some perspective and some information. So if you did get value from this video, be sure to go below and give me a like before you click off. I make helpful videos like this on a regular basis. So if you don't want to miss any, be sure to click the subscribe button so you'll be notified by YouTube when I upload. And as of right now, 2022, it's tough. It's not easy, but I would still say trucking is a great blue collar way to be able to feed your family and to be able to take care of yourself.